Brunei. Brunei is a country located on the north coast of the island of Borneo in Southeast Asia. Apart from its coastline with the South China Sea, the country is completely surrounded by the insular Malaysian state of Sarawak. It is separated into two parts by the Sarawak district of Limbang. Brunei is the only sovereign state completely on the island of Borneo. The remainder of the island's territory is divided between the nations of Malaysia and Indonesia. Brunei's population was 428,963 in 2018. At the peak of the Bruneian Empire, Sultan Bolkiah reigned 1485 to 1528, is alleged to have had control over most regions of Borneo, including modern-day Sarawak and Sabah, as well as the Sulu archipelago off the northeast tip of Borneo, Seludong, modern-day Manila, and the islands off the northwest tip of Borneo. The maritime state was visited by Spain's Magellan expedition in 1521 and fought against Spain in the 1578 Castilian War. During the 19th century, the Bruneian Empire began to decline. The Sultanate ceded Sarawak, Kuching, to James Brooke and installed him as the White Rajah, and it ceded Sabah to the British North Borneo Chartered Company. In 1888, Brunei became a British protectorate and was assigned a British resident as colonial manager in 1906. After the Japanese occupation during World War II, in 1959 a new constitution was written. In 1962, a small armed rebellion against the monarchy was ended with the help of the British. Brunei gained its independence from the United Kingdom on 1 January 1984. Economic growth during the 1990s and 2000s, with the GDP increasing 56% from 1999 to 2008, transformed Brunei into an industrialized country. It has developed wealth from extensive petroleum and natural gas fields. Brunei has the second highest Human Development Index among the Southeast Asian nations, after Singapore, and is classified as a developed country. According to the International Monetary Fund (IMF), Brunei is ranked 5th in the world by gross domestic product per capita at purchasing power parity. The IMF estimated in 2011 that Brunei was one of two countries, the other being Libya, with a public debt at 0% of the national GDP. Forbes also ranks Brunei as the 5th richest nation out of 182, based on its petroleum and natural gas fields. Etymology of Brunei. According to local historiography, Brunei was founded by Awang Alik Baidatar, later to be Sultan Muhammad Shah, reigning around AD 1400. He moved from Garong in the Temburong district to the Brunei River estuary, discovering Brunei. According to legend, upon landing he exclaimed, "Baru Na," loosely translated as "that's it," or "there," from which the name, Brunei, was derived. He was the first Muslim ruler of Brunei. Before the rise of the Bruneian Empire under the Muslim Bolkiah dynasty, Brunei is believed to have been under Buddhist rulers. It was renamed Brunei in the 14th century, possibly influenced by the Sanskrit word, Varun, meaning seafarers. The word, Borneo, is of the same origin. In the country's full name, Negara Brunei Darussalam, Darussalam means abode of peace, while Negara means country in Malay. The earliest recorded documentation by the West about Brunei is by an Italian known as Ludovico di Varthema, who also said the Bruneian people have fairer skin tone than the peoples he met in Maluku Islands. On his documentation back to 1550, we arrived at the island of Brunei or Borneo, which is distant from the Maluch about 200 miles, and we found that it was somewhat larger than the aforesaid and much lower. The people are pagans and are men of goodwill. Their color is whiter than that of the other sort. In this island justice is well administered. History of Brunei. The settlement known as Vijayapura was a colony to the Buddhist Srivijaya Empire and was thought to be located in Borneo's northwest, which flourished in the 7th century. In the aftermath of the Indian Chola invasion of Srivijaya, Datu Puti leads some dissident Datus from Sumatra and Borneo in a rebellion against Raja Makatunau, who was a Chola appointed local Raja. The dissidents and their retinue tried to revive Srivijaya in a new country called Maja as in the Visayas Islands, an archipelago named after Srivijaya, in the Philippines. One of the earliest Chinese records of an independent kingdom in Borneo is the 977 AD letter to Chinese emperor from the ruler of Po Ni, which some scholars believe to refer to Borneo. In 1225, a Chinese official, Zhao Ju Kua Zhao Rugua, reported that Po Ni had 100 warships to protect its trade, and that there was a lot of wealth in the kingdom. In the 14th century, the Javanese manuscript Nagarakretagama, written by Prapanka in 1365, mentioned Barun as the constituent state of Hindu Majapahit, which had to make an annual tribute of 40 kadis of camphor. In 1369, Sulu, which was also formerly part of Majapahit, had successfully rebelled and then attacked Po Ni, looting it of treasure and gold. A fleet from Majapahit succeeded in driving away the Sulus, but Po Ni was left weaker after the attack. A Chinese report from 1371 described Po Ni as poor and totally controlled by Majapahit. During the 15th century, Po Ni had seceded from Majapahit and then converted to Islam, thus transforming into the independent Sultanate of Brunei. Brunei became a Hashemite state when she allowed the Arab Emir of Mecca, Sharif Ali, to become her third sultan. Scholars claim that the power of the Sultanate of Brunei was at its peak between the 15th and 17th centuries, with its power extending from northern Borneo to the southern Philippines, Sulu, and even in the northern Philippines, Manila, which Brunei incorporated via territorial acquisition accomplished through royal marriages. Sultan Bolkiah had extended Brunei's power to its greatest extent when it conquered Manila and Sulu, as he even attempted but failed to conquer the Visayas Islands, even though Sultan Bolkiah was half Visayan himself, being descended from a Visayan mother, and he was famously known as Sultan Ragam, the singing captain. His powerful musical voice was a trait he inherited from his Visayan lineage, since Visayans were culturally obsessed with singing, with the best Visayan singers often also being members of their warrior castes too. However, Islamic Brunei's power was not uncontested in Borneo, since it had a Hindu rival in a state founded by Indians called Kutai in the south, which they overpowered but didn't destroy. Brunei's dominance in the Philippines was also challenged by two Indianized kingdoms, the Rajahanates of Cebu and Butuan, which were also coincidentally allied with Kutai and were also at war with Brunei's dependencies, Sulu and Manila, as well as their mutual ally, the Sultanate of Maguindanao. The Kadatuans of Maja and Dapitan were also belligerent against Brunei due to them being the targets of constant Muslim attacks organized from Maguindanao and Ternate, a Papuan-speaking state in the vicinity of Oceania that grew wealthy by monopolizing spice production. Nevertheless, by the 16th century, Islam was firmly rooted in Brunei, and the country had built one of its biggest mosques. In 1578, Alonso Beltran, a Spanish traveler, described it as being 5 stories tall and built on the water. British intervention in Brunei. The British have intervened in the affairs of Brunei on several occasions. Britain attacked Brunei in July 1846 due to internal conflicts over who was the rightful sultan. In the 1880s, the decline of the Bruneian Empire continued. The Sultan granted land, now Sarawak, to James Brooke, who had helped him quell a rebellion and allowed him to establish the Kingdom of Sarawak. Over time, Brooke and his nephews, who succeeded him, leased or annexed more land. Brunei lost much of its territory to him and his dynasty, known as the White Rajas. Sultan Hashim Jalilul Alam Akamadan appealed to the British to stop further encroachment by the Brookes. The Treaty of Protection was negotiated by Sir Hugh Low and signed into effect on 17 September 1888. The treaty said that the Sultan could not cede or lease any territory to foreign powers without British consent. It provided Britain effective control over Brunei's external affairs, making it a British protected state, which continued until 1984. But, when the Kingdom of Sarawak annexed Brunei's Pandaran district in 1890, the British did not take any action to stop it. They did not regard either Brunei or the Kingdom of Sarawak as foreign per the Treaty of Protection. This final annexation by Sarawak left Brunei with its current small land mass and separation into 2 parts. British residents were introduced in Brunei under the Supplementary Protectorate Agreement in 1906. The residents were to advise the Sultan on all matters of administration. Over time, the resident assumed more executive control than the Sultan. The residential system ended in 1959. Discovery of oil in Brunei. Petroleum was discovered in 1929 after several fruitless attempts. 2 men, F. Marriott and T. G. Cochrane, smelled oil near the Syria River in late 1926. They informed a geophysicist, who conducted a survey there. In 1927, gas seepages were reported in the area. Syria Well No. 1 S1 was drilled on 12 July 1928. Oil was struck at 297 meters 974 feet on 5 April 1929. Syria Well No. 2 was drilled on 19 August 1929 and, as of 2009, continues to produce oil. Oil production was increased considerably in the 1930s with the development of more oil fields. In 1940, oil production was at more than 6 million barrels. The British Malayan Petroleum Company, now Brunei Shell Petroleum Company, was formed on the 22nd of July 1922. The first offshore well was drilled in 1957. Oil and natural gas have been the basis of Brunei's development and wealth since the late 20th century. Post-World War II in Brunei. After World War II, a new government was formed in Brunei under the British Military Administration (BMA). It consisted mainly of Australian officers and servicemen. The administration of Brunei was passed to the civil administration on 6 July 1945. The Brunei State Council was also revived that year. The BMA was tasked to revive the Bruneian economy, which was extensively damaged by the Japanese during their occupation. They also had to put out the fires on the wells of Syria, which had been set by the Japanese prior to their defeat. Before 1941, the governor of the Straits Settlements, based in Singapore, was responsible for the duties of British High Commissioner for Brunei, Sarawak, and North Borneo, now Sabah. The first British High Commissioner for Brunei was the Governor of Sarawak, Sir Charles Arden Clarke. The Barisan Pemuda Youth Movement, abbreviated as BARIP, was the first political party to be formed in Brunei, on 12 April 1946. The party intended to preserve the sovereignty of the Sultan and the country, and to defend the rights of the Malays. BARIP also contributed to the composition of the country's national anthem. The party was dissolved in 1948 due to inactivity. In 1959, a new constitution was written declaring Brunei a self-governing state, while its foreign affairs, security, and defense remained the responsibility of the United Kingdom. A small rebellion erupted against the monarchy in 1962, which was suppressed with help of the UK. Known as the Brunei Revolt, it contributed to the failure to create the North Borneo Federation. The rebellion partially affected Brunei's decision to opt out of the Malaysian Federation. Brunei gained its independence from the United Kingdom on 1 January 1984. The official National Day, which celebrates the country's independence, is held by tradition on 23 February. Independence in Brunei. On 14 November 1971, Sultan Hassanal Bolkiah left for London to discuss matters regarding the amendments to the 1959 constitution. A new agreement was signed on 23 November 1971 with the British representative being Anthony Royal. Under this agreement, the following terms were agreed upon. Brunei was granted full internal self-government. The UK would still be responsible for external affairs and defence. Brunei and the UK agreed to share the responsibility for security and defence. This agreement also caused Gurkha units to be deployed in Brunei, where they remain up to this day. On 7 January 1979, another treaty was signed between Brunei and the United Kingdom. It was signed with Lord Goronwy Roberts being the representative of the UK. This agreement granted Brunei to take over international responsibilities as an independent nation. Britain agreed to assist Brunei in diplomatic matters. In May 1983, it was announced by the UK that the date of independence of Brunei would be 1 January 1984. On 31 December 1983, a mass gathering was held on main mosques on all 4 of the districts of the country, and at midnight, on 1 January 1984, the proclamation of independence was read by Sultan Hassanal Bolkiah. The Sultan subsequently assumed the title, His Majesty, rather than the previous, His Royal Highness. Brunei was admitted to the United Nations on the 22nd of September 1984, becoming the organization's 159th member. Geography of Brunei. Brunei is a Southeast Asian country consisting of two unconnected parts with a total area of 5,765 square kilometers, 2,226 square miles on the island of Borneo. It has 161 kilometers, 100 miles of coastline next to the South China Sea, and it shares a 381 kilometers, 237 miles border with Malaysia. It has 500 square kilometers, 193 square miles of territorial waters and a 200 nautical mile, 370 kilometers, 230 miles exclusive economic zone. About 97% of the population lives in the larger western part, Balai, Tutong, and Brunei Mura, while only about 10,000 people live in the mountainous eastern part, Temburong district. The total population of Brunei is approximately 408,000 as of July 2010, of which around 150,000 live in the capital Bandar Seri Begawan. Other major towns are the port town of Mura, the oil-producing town of Syria and its neighboring town, Kuala Balai. In Balai district, the Panaga area is home to large numbers of Europeans expatriates, due to Royal Dutch Shell and British Army housing, and several recreational facilities are located there. Most of Brunei is within the Borneo lowland rainforests ecoregion, which covers most of the island. Areas of mountain rainforests are located inland. Climate in Brunei. The climate of Brunei is tropical equatorial, that is a tropical rainforest climate more subject to the intertropical convergence zone than the trade winds and with no or rare cyclones. Brunei is exposed to the risks stemming from climate change along with other ASEAN member states. Politics and government in Brunei. Brunei's political system is governed by the constitution and the national tradition of the Malay Islamic monarchy, Melayu Islam Baraha, MIB. The three components of MIB cover Malay culture, Islamic religion, and the political framework under the monarchy. It has a legal system based on English common law, although Islamic law, Sharia, supersedes this in some cases. Brunei has a parliament but there are no elections. The last election was held in 1962. Under Brunei's 1959 constitution, His Majesty Paduka Seri Baginda Sultan Haji Hassanal Bolkiah Muizzaddin Wadalah is the head of state with full executive authority. Since 1962, this authority has included emergency powers, which are renewed every 2 years. Brunei has technically been under martial law since the Brunei Revolt of 1962. Hassanal Bolkiah also serves as the state's prime minister, finance minister and defense minister. The royal family retains a venerated status within Brunei. Animal rights in Brunei. Brunei is the first country in Asia to have banned shark finning nationwide. Brunei has retained most of its forests, compared to its neighbors that share Borneo Island. There is a public campaign calling to protect pangolins, which are considered threatened treasure in Brunei. Economy in Brunei. Brunei's small, wealthy economy is a mixture of foreign and domestic entrepreneurship, government regulation, welfare measures, and village tradition. Crude oil and natural gas production account for about 90% of its GDP. About 167,000 barrels, 26,600 cubic meters, of oil are produced every day, making Brunei the fourth largest producer of oil in Southeast Asia. It also produces approximately 25.3 million cubic meters, 890 times 106 cubic feet, of liquefied natural gas per day, making Brunei the ninth largest exporter of the substance in the world. Substantial income from overseas investments supplements income from domestic production. Most of these investments are made by the Brunei Investment Agency, an arm of the Ministry of Finance. The government provides for all medical services, and subsidies rice and housing. The national air carrier, Royal Brunei Airlines, is trying to develop Brunei as a modest hub for international travel between Europe and Australia, New Zealand. Central to this strategy is the position that the airline maintains at London Heathrow Airport. It holds a daily slot at the highly capacity-controlled airport, which it serves from Bandar Seri Begawan via Dubai. The airline also has services to major Asian destinations including Shanghai, Bangkok, Singapore and Manila. Brunei depends heavily on imports such as agricultural products, e.g. rice, food products, livestock, etc., motor cars and electrical products from other countries. Brunei imports 60% of its food requirements. Of that amount, around 75% come from the ASEAN countries. Brunei's leaders are very concerned that steadily increased integration in the world economy will undermine internal social cohesion. But it has become a more prominent player by serving as chairman for the 2000 Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation (APEC) Forum. Leaders plan to upgrade the labor force, reduce unemployment, which was at 6.9% in 2014, the banking and tourism sectors, and, in general, broaden the economic base. The government of Brunei has also promoted food self-sufficiency, especially in rice. Brunei renamed its Brunei Darussalam Rice One as Layla Rice during the launch of the paddy planting towards achieving self-sufficiency of rice production in Brunei Darussalam ceremony at the Wasan paddy fields in April 2009. In August 2009, the royal family reaped the first few Layla paddy stalks, after years of attempts to boost local rice production, a goal first articulated about half a century ago. In July 2009, Brunei launched its national halal branding scheme, Brunei Halal, with a goal to export to foreign markets. Demographics in Brunei. Ethnicities indigenous to Brunei include the Malay, Brunei Bisaya, not to be confused with the Bisaya of the nearby Philippines, indigenous Bruneian Malay, Dusun, Kedayan, Lun Bawang, Marut and Tutong. The population of Brunei in 2018 was 428,963, of which 76% live in urban areas. The rate of urbanization is estimated at 2.13% per year from 2010 to 2015. The average life expectancy is 77.7 years. In 2014, 65.7% of the population were Malay, 10.3% are Chinese, 3.4% are indigenous, with 20.6% smaller groups making up the rest. There is a relatively large expatriate community. Most expats come from non-Muslim countries such as Australia, United Kingdom, South Korea, Japan, the Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam and India. Languages in Brunei. The official language of Brunei is Standard Malay, for which both the Latin alphabet and the Arabic alphabet are used. The Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports supports for a lingual movement aimed at the increased use of the language in Brunei. The principal spoken language is Melayu Brunei, Brunei Malay. Brunei Malay is rather divergent from Standard Malay and the rest of the Malay dialects, being about 84% cognate with Standard Malay, and is mostly mutually unintelligible with it. English is widely used as a business and official language, and it is spoken by a majority of the population in Brunei. English is used in business as a working language and as the language of instruction from primary to tertiary education. Chinese languages are also widely spoken, and the Chinese minority in Brunei speak a number of varieties of Chinese. Arabic is the religious language of Muslims. Therefore, Arabic is taught in schools, particularly religious schools, and also in institutes of higher learning. As of 2004, there are 6 Arabic schools and 1 religious teachers' college in Brunei. A majority of Brunei's Muslim population has had some form of formal or informal education in the reading, writing and pronunciation of the Arabic language as part of their religious education. Other languages and dialects spoken include Kedayan Malay dialect, Tutong Malay dialect, Marut, and Dusun. Religion in Brunei. Islam is the official religion of Brunei, specifically that of the Sunni denomination and the Shafi'i school of Islamic jurisprudence. 2/3 of the population, including the majority of Bruneian Malays, identify as Muslim. Other faiths practiced are Buddhism 13%, mainly by the Chinese, and Christianity 10%. Freethinkers, mostly Chinese, form about 7% of the population. Although most of them practice some form of religion with elements of Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism, they prefer to present themselves as having practiced no religion officially, hence labeled as atheists in official censuses. Followers of indigenous religions are about 2% of the population. Culture in Brunei. The culture of Brunei is predominantly Malay, reflecting its ethnicity, with heavy influences from Islam, but is seen as much more conservative than Indonesia and Malaysia. Influences to Bruneian culture come from the Malay cultures of the Malay archipelago. 4 periods of cultural influence have occurred: animist, Hindu, Islamic, and Western. Islam had a very strong influence, and was adopted as Brunei's ideology and philosophy. Brunei's official main language is Malay, but English is also widely spoken as it is a compulsory subject in the majority of the schools. As a Sharia country, the sale and public consumption of alcohol is banned. Non-Muslims are allowed to bring in a limited amount of alcohol from their point of embarkation overseas for their own private consumption. Sports in Brunei. The most popular sport in Brunei is association football. The Brunei national football team joined FIFA in 1969, but has not had much success. The top two football leagues are the Brunei Super League and the Brunei Premier League. Brunei debuted at the Olympics in 1996, it has competed at all subsequent Summer Olympics except 2008. The country has competed in badminton, shooting, swimming, and track and field, but has yet to win any medals. Brunei has had slightly more success at the Asian Games, winning 4 bronze medals. The first major international sporting event to be hosted in Brunei was the 1999 Southeast Asian Games. According to the all-time Southeast Asian Games medal table, Bruneian athletes have won a total of 14 gold, 55 silver and 163 bronze medals at the Games. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, click on like button. If you want to watch more videos like this, click on the subscription button below, it's free subscription.